sister moon. I seldom see you, seldom hear your tune. Preoccupied with selfish misery.
Greetings, Uncle Travelling Matt here, and I said I wouldn't be making another video, but I thought I would slip in an extra little bonus one with a few more reflections and also just a bit of an update of what I've done since I finished my Camino. So the last time we spoke I was in Foligno in the church of Saint Angela of Foligno, and of course she's accompanied me on this Camino this time, and the Camino finished there. And what I decided to do is spend my time exploring something of the area. One of the big problems with Camino, although it's in some ways the ultimate in slow travel, particularly if it's me that's walking, because I don't work very fast at all, is it's very rushed. You don't get time to see anything. You stay on the path and you're so tired because it's so demanding physically that even, an amazing sight that's like half a kilometre off the path, you don't go. And you get into these wonderful towns in the evening and you're so tired, all you can think about is getting a drink and lying down. And so I decided to see a little bit of the area, because what is apparent is Umbria is absolutely gorgeous, and the level to which it's gorgeous is almost inconceivable, in the respect that every town I've been through anywhere else would be like one of the main draws of the country. Even like Valfabrica, if you shoved it in somewhere like Britain, which has a lot of very pretty stuff anyway, and Britain's not short of stuff to see, Valfabrica would be a big tourist draw card. In Italy, it's not even that good for the area, and that's so staggering. Like, there is just so much history here and so much to see. Like any church you go in and there's something from Donatello or Raphael, it's unbelievable, and you just I can't be bothered seeing this. I've seen so much already. And Foligno is a good example. I mean, Foligno is not a big draw card in Umbria, let alone Italy, and part of the problem is it got bombed during the war. It's a major railway junction. The railway line from Rome splits at Foligno, and part goes up to Perugia, and then on to Florence, and the other part goes across the mountains to Ancona. So that's why Foligno got bombed, and it has an historical centre, but there are bits that aren't that great, and so it's nowhere near as complete as some of the other cities have been in. But I went to this wonderful palace, and I haven't got the name now, but I'll write it down. And it was a Gothic palace, and but it had a classical facade put on later. And this museum, I think it cost me €9. Should have been 12. But because I was a pilgrim, they gave me a discount, which I thought was really wonderful. And a lot of people who've known me for a while know that, like, one of my favourite film is Romeo and Juliet, which was filmed in Siena. But, when you go into that palace, it literally is like you're going into the Capulet's house. It's wonderful. And, it's built on a series of courtyards. And I'm reminded at the beginning of the film where they're calling to Juliet across a courtyard and she comes to one of the windows. And, to actually see one of those places for real, amazing. But some of the stuff that was in there was incredible. Umbrians are a very ancient people, and there was an archaeology section where they showed like all the Bronze Age stuff, and on all the graves there was and holy sites there were these little figures, spindly figures that I think they were men and women, and some were of gods, and they were there to I guess get favour from the gods, sort of thing, and. They remind me very much of the spindly figures that I found at the L-shaped temple in Byblos. But of course, that was the world that it was in, and it was a glimpse into this kind of pre-Roman Italy, which, the Roman culture obliterated so much else. And we think of Italy as kind of starting with Rome, but there was stuff before, and that was interesting. Obviously, there was a lot of Roman stuff, and Foligno is a Roman city. It's built on a very clear Roman plan, and then there was also these wonderful frescoes, mostly 14th century. I think 14th or 15th. No, they were 15th century, and so after the St. Francis era, but yeah, absolutely brilliant. And after Angela, so Angela wouldn't have seen them, but never mind. Yeah, so there we are. So that was that. I went to this palace. Also went to the Duomo. The Duomo, again, one of the problems with Catholicism is it had all that money, and they ruined all these ancient Romanesque and Gothic churches by, kind of baroquifying them during the Counter-Reformation, and Foligno was one that didn't do anything for me. That the interior, I mean, the exterior was lovely, but the interior was nothing special. So that was that, and then. But it was nice just to have a look round this town, and I was kind of the only tourist, I think. And I also went into this cafe for my lunch, and I had, I forget what they're called. I think they're a Pinot or something. Again, I'll put the name at the bottom. But they're like the kind of Roman version of pizza, and I've never been a fan of pizza at all. Growing up, it just never really did much for me. And it's only since I've been coming to Italy that I've really started liking it. And on this trip in particular, I've had some amazing pizzas. And what I realised is the bread is too thick, and all this thick crust stuff. I mean, it's an abomination. Whereas in Italy, the bread is so thin that it's just wonderful. But these things, that it was on very thick bread, and it fills you up. It really does. But I had a Bianca one. Bianca is without the tomato sauce, and it was good. But what was wonderful is the actual shop itself was a real time capsule. Very friendly staff as well, and wooden fittings, and it was actually built onto the side of the cathedral. And it was just a wonderful place to while away an hour or so. And he sold like sweets in the old sweet shop that way. So I bought a load of sweets and tried them. It was excellent. So that was that. And then I walked to the railway station, and I got the train to Spoleta, because Spoleta is where my accommodation was. I had a bit of a stiff walk. It was almost 2 kilometre walk through the new town at first, which was fairly flat, and then like that up through the old town to my accommodation. My accommodation was one of the utter best that I've been to. It was a one-room apartment in an ancient building across from a really ancient church that's been converted into a theatre. But an indication of why it's really right that I finished this Camino is, I got there, and yes, I have walked a bit. I mean, I did over 10,000 steps, both on the CC day and that day. So, it's not like I'm not doing anything on these days, but I was so tired. I slept for 2 hours, then got up, had an evening meal of some amazing, cooked meats from a kind of cured meat specialist. Then I went to bed and slept for another 9 hours. I am really tired, and I think my body's just not used to this. and I probably pushed it further than I thought I had. So that was that. And then the next day I explored Spoleta. Now Spoleta is a little bit more famous, but even so, you look in the Lonely Planets and that's not mentioned. Spoleto is another Roman town, built on the side of the hill. Apparently all these Umbrian towns were built on the side of hills. And I went to 2 museums. There were 4 or 5, and I would have liked to have gone to them all, but you needed a Spello card to do that, and the first museum only took cash. And once I'd already paid for one, it was silly to get the card because I wouldn't get the value for it. So in the end, I went to this first one, which was of the excavated Roman theatre, which was impressive, although I've seen quite a few Roman theatres over the years, particularly recently in Algeria and that. So that was not the thing that really blew me away, but it was the exhibits. I mean, it was an archaeology museum. They talked about how they excavated the theatre, and there was an ancient church built on the stage, but there was a building built all around that had been like an infirmary, and they knocked that down, and how they excavated it all. It was really fascinating. And then the archaeological finds, and there was more of the spindly figures from the Bronze Age, a lot of Roman stuff, and really good explanations in English. And it was one of the best museums I've been to. It was utterly brilliant. But then there was another thing about Spoleto that was great, is that it's got the world's weirdest metro system. I mean, I don't even know if you can call it a metro system. It's literally under the main city, under the old city. There are a series of moving walkways. Like there are 3 lines, and 2 of them are like literally those moving walkways like you find at airports. And you go on them through tunnels, and there's pictures of the Spoleto Festival, which apparently is quite a famous thing, on the walls. And the blue line and the yellow line. The yellow line's the longest. That's 1 kilometre long, and then where the things end, then there's like little stairs or lifts up to different parts of the city. But the 3rd line, which I did go on at the end of the day, is actually excavated, and it goes up and down the hill, and it's a great way for getting around on a very steep city. So yeah, really unique transport solution there. And it's one that I'm surprised I haven't seen more. I mean, you occasionally get escalators in places, but not as a kind of network. Really interesting. So then I went to the Piazza Mercato. I had my lunch there, and that's quite interesting because that was the old Roman Forum. Of course, they built on bits of it, and there's still a Roman arch, and a church that's built on the foundation of the Roman temple, and you can see the pillars of the Roman temple in the foundation. And apparently there was a statue there to the senator from Spoleto. So Spoleto was, of course, not Roman originally. Only Rome was Roman, and then it became a colony. And then it was really interesting, the early history of Rome, that they then were like, well, how do we extend our citizenship? Because they didn't really want to extend the benefits, but they kind of had to keep all these people on the side. So they gave 3 Spoletans this citizenship, and then a year or so later they gave it to the whole city. And of course that was a problem throughout the Roman Empire, is, well, what defines Romanness? And in the end Spoleto was defined as Roman because it was exceptionally loyal. And I say this senator that they honoured, he was one of only 2 who tried to defend Julius Caesar when he was being stabbed. And so for that he was lauded as a great patriot. Anyway, then went up the escalators to this fortress on a hill above the city. Now, I knew from my time in the archaeological museum that the hill had originally been like a holy sanctuary and there had been temples there. But in the 15th century they built this wacky great fortress there, and that's now a museum. And that had some incredible frescoes in, and also treasures from around, like a place called Norcia, where there'd been an earthquake and it had destroyed a lot, and they were putting the treasures there whilst everything was restored in Norcia. and there was one room in particular, a frescoed room that I just found very powerful. And it was one of the few where there weren't religious scenes; they were profane scenes. They were like, I think it was the life of a cavalier or something, and pictures of him hunting and in battle and all this kind of stuff. And it was just a really nice room. But the greatest thing from up there were the views. I mean, the views all around, a wonderful setting, and of course hillside turned the sun to be. And on the other side to the city, there is an amazing Roman aqueduct. Now, I didn't go onto it because the Camino goes over the aqueduct later, so that's like the one little Spello treat that I'm saving for next time. But so that was good, and I have looked at the Camino, and I do think I might try and do it in 2 parts and not rush it, because I think I did try to do too much when I was planning it this time, and I've worked out like an 8 and 7 day itinerary to do the rest of it, and where it won't be killing me, as it were. And I do find 8 days seems to work. I mean, like when I did my Camino de Santiago, I did I think it was 6 or 7 days walking, and that wasn't enough. And then I did 8 days, and they were nice. And then the longest one I did, I think, was 15 days, and it was probably a bit too long at the end. But it was during lockdown, nothing else to do. Then, and my Jerusalem one was 6. Could have done with it being a bit longer, but it was okay. This I did 8 days walking, so I'm thinking let's aim for an 8-day walking. And of course, I'm rambling a bit, but this is a reflection video. You're allowed to. As to what do I do next? Do I come back and do another 8 days, or do I do the Hildegard von Bingen Camino, which is I think 6 or 7, and that might be a nice contrast. I was talking with Katya, she didn't know about it, and she said, well, it looks really good, but it looks like there's no albergues of that, so you'd have to book normal accommodation. But I've kind of been doing that for much of this anyway, so. But what I want to do is plan this one a bit more in advance, so I can get in the monasteries more and the pilgrim accommodation. So that's that. I then from Spoleto took the train to Perugia. I'm in Perugia now. Perugia is another, I think, ridiculously gorgeous city. So I arrived last night, went on its mini metro, which is this incredible little metro system with these self-driving pods that run along the track, and it goes really up steep hills and then breaks suddenly for the stations. And I absolutely love it. It's a brilliant little system and ideal for a city like this. And it gives you some great views until it goes into the tunnel. And I thought, I've never seen anything like this. But I was wrong. There's only, apart from airports, there's only one in regular use. And that's the one in Pisa that I went on. My first part of this Camino. Which of course did go from the airport, so it is a bit airporty. But and that went from the airport to the centre of the town, and I remember really liking that as well. But this one's slightly different, and what's great is it works on a bit of a pulley system. But when the little pods get into the station, the terminal station, they go onto a turntable, are flipped around, and then go back the way they came, and it's all automated. It's brilliant. So that's the mini metro, and really enjoyed that. And then walked through this gorgeous, gorgeous city. Last night, I was so tired though. My God. Last night I stayed in a hostel, which I don't really like doing, but it was to save a bit of money. And I didn't go. I went to bed quite early, about 10 o'clock. And literally was so tired. Didn't sleep brilliantly, I never do in hostels, but didn't wake up till 9 this morning. I mean, and I'm still tired now, my body's recovering, but I've made a bit of an effort to have a look around, so I've strolled around the centre. I went in the cathedral, which is incredible from the outside, and the square outside is wonderful. Reminds me of Romeo and Juliet, where they're Mercutio and Benvolio and Tybalt playing around the fountain in the square, and then it turns into a fight, and of course Tybalt gets killed. Mercutio and Tybalt get killed eventually. And again, yes, all my Romeo and Juliet fantasies are coming back, but they're actually filmed in Siena, which I've never been to, although it's not far. And I'm now sitting drinking coffee in a square and just enjoying the ambience. I do like Italy. I have really enjoyed this. This Camino's come alive this time, because last time it was very solitary. I mean, I walked one day with that German chap, but it didn't feel very Camino-y. Now this time I've actually walked alone every day. I've never walked with anybody else. But every evening, or almost every evening, I've been talking to other people, and there's been a real gang of pilgrims. And, you know, it's been a shame not walking with other pilgrims, but I am a slow walker, and this is a serious Camino, and it attracts much more serious walkers than the Camino de Santiago. And I think that's something, if you're somebody who really wants to walk with someone, this one is probably not the one for you unless you go with someone. And there is, and certainly since Sanctuario della Verna, is a pilgrim culture developing. You know, there are the Donativo albergues. There are, you know, there is this pilgrim band of brothers thing going on that is great, and that reminded me of the Camino de Santiago. And you know, my fondest memories are with Max, with Norbert, with the Americans, Canadians, and that is pure Camino. Again though, for me, I am still a bit annoyed Andy Brown and his off-beat stuff, though he's a bit better now. I'm looking at the ones to come. There's one where he goes over a ridiculously tall mountain, and I've looked in the book, and there's a road round it, so I'll be taking that one. You know, it is gorgeous. The scenery is gorgeous, and the welcome in Italy has been much greater than Spain. I guess they might get a bit jaded with all the pilgrims, and it's not bad welcome in Spain by any stretch of the imagination, but here they really do go one step beyond. And the food, you know, apart from the Basque Country, this is superior from the Spanish food. Although the Basque Country food was beyond amazing. So, you always know a country's good when it's got good cheese and good cooked meat. That's the litmus test, isn't it? Which means that maybe a German pilgrimage might be fun too. Anyway, this is me travelling back from the centre of Perugia with his final Italian coffee, saying, keep travelling, and as always, brothers, sisters, stay on the path.
Sun and sister moon, I now do see you, I can hear your tune, so much in love with all that I survey.